Hi and welcome to The Winning Factor. I'm Alan Aitken, and on this show each week we take a look at upcoming races in Hong Kong and try to isolate an aspect of the race that might be a path to finding the winner. Well, back to Sha Tin on Sunday for 10 of the best, and the first race we're going to look at is the opening race, race 1, where our winning factor is the recent race. So a smallish field for this Class 4, 1600 metres, and I'm sure there'll be cases made for Mr Dapper, a recent trial winner. Down in the handicap, Soaring Bronco and Smart Beauty have claims, but I'm highlighting two horses who have already raced this season on opening day. Outsider Starline, who has the £10 claimer Brittany Wong this week, and more particularly Hugh Bowman's mount, Family Jewel. So if you were watching last week's show, I highlighted half a dozen trainers who tend to dominate the early proceedings each season, and in the week since, David Hayes, Tony Cruz and particularly Danny Shum have claimed 8 of the 18 races. And today I want to have a look at another small edge that we get statistically early in the season, and that is horses who have already run. So Hong Kong's horses don't actually go out and stand in a grassy field for their summer break, grassy fields being in somewhat short supply in Hong Kong. So a break isn't quite what it is in many countries, but they still lose match fitness, and that means there is an advantage for horses at this time of the season who have already had a race. Here you see some numbers from the first 100 races over the last 7 seasons, and around 40% of the winners each year have already had a race. Now this is a small edge and it disappears very quickly. For example, in 2 meetings so far this season, we've already had 119 runners who would qualify under this rule when they run again. So you can see how quickly it becomes unworkable. But we're looking now at meeting 3 and it's still relevant. Now Starline can improve on what he did last week first up, but he would certainly need to off that poor run. But Family Jewel, he finished 8th last week and should have finished considerably closer. And he's from the yard of one of those fast beginning trainers that we highlighted, Casper Founds, who has yet to win a race this season, so he's overdue. This is race 8, barrier 4 in dark blue colours with a red cap, and Family Jewel, one of the last to begin, but he makes ground quickly up into midfield, about 3 or 4 lengths off the lead for most of the race under Vincent Ho. Now this was an unusual race shape that you do see from time to time. No speed at any stage on the heat map and just a sprint home from the top of the straight, yet the run-on horses from the back dominate the finish, and that's because the leaders stop. Things get so crowded behind them in the pack that horses don't get any room to run except the ones on the outside, and Family Jewels is a sufferer here, badly held up until the final 100 metres before he closes off well. So that was more like a trial for Family Jewel, never really able to get into his work, and as a result he's had a race appearance, but he hasn't had a tough run, and I think that's going to help him out with a little fitness edge as he goes to Sunday's race, and the extra 200 metres I don't think will hurt him either. When we take a look at the map, the pace is not really his friend, once again, with a few runners who might push forward early, though perhaps not with any real sense of purpose. Now somebody's going to end up in front, but it doesn't look a strong pace, and traffic is potentially once more an issue. But this time it's Hugh Bowman with the task of finding clear room through at the right moment. So the tip in race 1, Family Jewel. His winning factor, the recent race. Now this horse did show a little bit of promise in 2 starts last season. He didn't really get much of a chance to show himself off last week, but now he has that run under the belt, a fitness edge on most of his rivals being first up, and I think that might prove decisive. The other race I want to take a look at is race 7, and our winning factor here, the sectionals. So this is a Class 4, 1400 metres. I think the market will give some chance to the likes of Satirical Glory off a good trial for his new trainer, Zach Burton's mount, Divas 12, the last start winner Mission Voice, and Chater Gold has even a knockout chance down in the weights, fresh, although at a distance short of his best. But mostly for me the race revolves around 2 horses, Top Peak and Lucky Impact. Firstly, Top Peak. Now, he won 2 in a row at this course and distance in May, June, and then raced again on the final day of last season when he was beaten, but certainly didn't lose any admirers. This is race 827 from last season, and in gate 12, light colours, Top Peak jumps well and is quickly across to be second in a race with good even speed throughout. He gets a nice trip through the race and quickly joins the leader in the home straight to look a chance, but steps ahead, has been on his back the whole way and has a better turn of foot when it gets serious, quickening past and away from him. So that was another run with plenty of merit under a big weight from Top Peak, and his last 5 starts have yielded 2 wins, 2 seconds and a 4th, so certainly he has been in the form of his career. But I think the other horse that dominates proceedings here is Lucky Impact. He's a son of the very good Japanese miler middle distance horse Real Steel, and he's had only 1 race in his career, and that was last season as a beaten favourite. This is race 786 over 1200 metres, and in gate 3, dark blue colours, Lucky Impact is one of the last to begin, and that was no advantage in this race as the heat map shows. The early speed was slow, but the race just got faster as the race progressed. He does pick up some ground cheaply on the rail in the mid stages, but still has a lot to do in what is the fastest part of the race from the top of the straight. First 3 at the 400 metres are the first 3 past the post, but Lucky Impact makes up a lot of ground to go over the line with them in 4th place. Now, he was a well-fancied favourite there on debut, and I think that that opinion in the market was backed up by the performance with circumstances against him. He produced the fastest final 400 metre sprint of the entire meeting that day, and I think that is his trump card when we go into Sunday's race. On the map, the 2 South African riders, Luke Ferraris on Mission Voice and Lyle Hewitson on Satirical Glory, look as likely to lead as anyone, even though this distance might be a little short of their ideal. So the pace they set is open to some question and might not be that strong unless they get into a fight over it. In all likelihood, Top Peak will be more prominent than Lucky Impact in a race where position does look to matter. Lucky Impact's start in his race and some of his trials too has not been great, but I think Sha Tin will be aiming here to get in perhaps to midfield on the back of Top Peak. And if he can do that, like steps again in the replay we showed, I think that Lucky Impact's acceleration might be too much. As I mentioned, he was the fastest final 400 metre sprint of the day from 147 horses on his debut appearance, while when we look at Top Peak's finishing sectionals, well, even though he's been racing well, they aren't that impressive. You can see here his last 5 starts and his rankings in those races, and also his rankings in the finishing sprints on those days. The best he's done is to be 32nd best of the day when he won on May 26. He's more of a grinding type of horse, so his rider will be wanting to get some daylight between himself and Lucky Impact before that horse hits top gear. So my tip in race 7, Lucky Impact. His winning factor, the sectionals. At Top Peak, he's an admirable horse. He's certainly got to be respected here. He's racing so well, and he's going to take a prominent position. But acceleration changes races. Top Peak doesn't have a lot of that. Lucky Impact has plenty. Well, that's it from the winning factor this week. Enjoy the racing Sunday. We'll see you next time.